I didn't do that. But my life path could have been entirely different if I would have done that.
Only way to do great work is to love what you do. As with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. So keep looking. Don't settle.
Let's get it on. Hi, friends. Everyone who wants to move overseas wants a better life, whether that's better finances, whether the freedom to do what they want to do in their life, better career prospects. But, like all things in life, moving overseas has its challenges. What happens when life throws those challenges at you, whether that's visa issues, whether someone has to take a couple of steps back in their career. And today we're talking about that important concept, which probably is one of the first things that you need to get right before even deciding to move overseas. And I'm going to share a story. That story is going to explain that concept very clearly. So the story is of a person who was a dentist, and that person was originally from a particular country. Their parents' stay was entirely in UAE and dependent on their parents' employer sponsorship. They never got UAE citizenship. So this person came with the intention of getting an Australian permanent residency and then citizenship. That was the entirety of their goal. But what this person didn't plan necessarily was how their career and how their permanent visa prospects, how do they align. But this is probably the most important bit, and I'll share with you what happened with this particular person by the end of the video. But what I want to really focus on today is we need to acknowledge that moving overseas is probably one of the most challenging and riskiest decisions anyone can make in their life. Yes, the rewards are great. For example, if I wouldn't have made the decision I've made several years ago, I wouldn't be here talking to you, sharing my journey with you. But there were significant challenges that I had to get through. So similarly, one of the most important things that will happen is, for example, financial challenges. For example, people can take a loan to study overseas. That comes with significant financial risk, because then the person has to get a job, pay off that loan. A lot of the times they have to mortgage property or whatnot. People who take permanent resident visa, whether that's Australia or Canada, the process is somewhat similar. And what happens is a lot of the people put their entire savings into their process. Visas, agents, moving overseas, finding accommodation, having some savings built up. So it's a financial risk. Career risk. We have to acknowledge the elephant in the room, and that is moving overseas means that people have to probably take a few steps back, if not at least a couple of steps back in their career. They sometimes need to change the direction of their career. So this is again, that's an important area that people need to think through, whether moving overseas, the promise of moving overseas versus what they're putting at risk. I'm not saying that there won't be a good career, but these are important things that one has to acknowledge before stepping foot overseas, before stepping on that flight. The other thing is relationships. For instance, I had friends that I really enjoyed talking to. So if you look at my previous video, I talked about how I spent one of my birthdays back in my home country, and I don't have the same kind of relationship with those friends. Yes, I talk once in a while, but there's so much going on in my life as well as their life that each of us aren't aware of. They used to be my source of advice back then, but now I had to find my own little circle. So this is another risk that one has to be aware of. Similarly, other adjustment-related challenges like driving rules change, new laws, a bit of culture shock maybe, tailoring communication. Communication is a really important part of moving overseas, especially to, let's say, Western countries, but even places like Middle East. All of these places expect that we have to tailor our communication style to the audience. And there are many other uncertainties that could be part of this. Another important thing that's relevant to this motivation, is it an external motivation? Are any of your friends asking you to come overseas? So in my case, it was not about external motivations, but I know of people who went overseas because everyone around them wanted to move overseas. Sometimes parental expectations can play a role. So it's very important to ask ourselves, whose dream are we living? So going back to that person came to Australia to study Master of Public Health. But because of a variety of reasons, that person's career path and that person's migration journey didn't align. They have to align. Career journey in a lot of these countries and the visa, they must align. Sometimes they don't need to, depending on people's individual situation, but a lot of the times they need to. Now this person's, it didn't happen like that. And what happened was COVID hit. This person had to go back overseas. This person tried to return to Australia. This person came back to Australia, but it never happened. This person now had to leave Australia. So how can you make sure that this doesn't become your journey? Sometimes working with someone who's a trusted advisor can help, but be wary of people who are trying to sell you something. For example, so how could have this person avoided this situation? What I did in my case was I really took the time to think things through. I probably took a really long time, and it could be the case that you don't need that kind of time. But what's really important is speaking to someone who's trusted. In my situation, it turned out to be the other way around. I remember going to an agency talking about the different study options, the different migration options. And this particular person was always trying to tell me, look, send me all of your documents, apply for a Canadian permanent residency. And then when I tried to talk about something else, that person brought the discussion back. Canadian permanent residency. I didn't do that. But my life path could have been entirely different if I would have done that. I did what I thought was important for me. I thought through my career options. I thought through where I wanted to be. I took my time to do that. And that's why sometimes speaking to someone who's a trusted advisor can help. Because this is a complex decision, a decision where your head and your heart need to align. With that, until next time, peace.